Introduction to dispensing propane safely. Propane dispensing stations offer a convenient fueling source for residential, recreational, and commercial users of propane and can be found at many locations, including hardware stores, professional landscape companies, campgrounds, rental equipment companies, and gas stations. Motorhomes, campers, autogas vehicles, lawn mowers, barbecue grills, and forklifts are just a few of the vehicles and equipment served by propane dispensing stations. In order to ensure your safety and the safety of your customers when dispensing propane, you should know about the fuel, equipment, regulations, and processes that are involved in filling various types of propane containers. This video will discuss general information about dispensing propane safely and also go into detail about the specific processes involved in filling various types of propane containers and vehicles. Everyone who dispenses propane will need to review the first 3 modules, in addition to the modules specific to their filling applications. These modules will give you basic information on dispensing equipment and the safe handling and transfer of propane. The lone exception is if you only dispense propane autogas. Then you will need to review the first 2 modules in addition to the dispensing propane autogas module. If you fill any type of propane cylinder, such as a mower, forklift, or small cylinder, you will need to review the first 4 modules in addition to the modules specific to your filling applications. Module 4 contains important information on cylinder components and markings, pre-fill inspection, purging, and the loading and transporting of cylinders. Your training will not be complete unless you review the appropriate modules. Refer to the table in the textbook for further guidance of which modules should be taken as a prerequisite to others. Propane dispensers. Propane dispenser operators play a critical role in safely and efficiently dispensing propane into containers and vehicles. Responsibilities include understanding the regulations, routine inspections, and operation of the dispensing equipment, inspecting containers and vehicles to ensure that they are compliant and safe for filling, filling containers to their proper levels and preventing them from being overfilled, maintaining the security of the propane dispenser and transfer area to control ignition sources and prevent tampering or release of propane, shutting down and securing the dispenser in the event of an emergency. Informing customers about how to safely handle and transport propane containers is important. Safety tips for your customers may include always transport and store a cylinder in a secure and upright position so it will not fall, shift, or roll. Never keep a filled cylinder inside a hot vehicle. And always proceed directly to your destination and immediately remove the cylinder from your vehicle. Your company may choose to distribute safety information to customers when propane containers are filled. One resource to consider should your company provide safety information is the pamphlet Important Propane Safety Information for Users of Small Cylinders. Visit propanecouncil.org to download the pamphlet or to order copies. Properties and characteristics of propane. The safe dispensing of propane involves knowing its properties and characteristics and being aware of safety procedures. A safety data sheet, or SDS, is available from propane suppliers or distributors and must be available and accessible to all employees at the workplace. The SDS provides important information on propane, including physical properties, health effects, first aid, safety precautions, and personal protective equipment. Propane is stored as both a liquid and a vapor. As propane liquid turns to vapor, it expands 270 times. Because of the large expansion rate, a liquid propane leak can be more hazardous than a propane vapor leak. Propane containers are usually filled to only 80% of their capacity to allow room for liquid propane to expand with an increase in temperature. Propane is non-toxic but its vapor can be dangerous to inhale because it can displace oxygen. Since propane vapor is heavier than air, propane released in a confined space may settle in low-lying areas. However, if there is sufficient air movement, especially outdoors, the vapor will quickly dissipate in the air. Propane liquid becomes very cold when released to the atmosphere. This means if it comes in contact with your skin, it can cause frostbite or freeze burns. For this reason, appropriate gloves or other personal protective equipment resistant to propane should always be worn when filling containers. Your employer may require other safety equipment depending on your specific responsibilities, so be sure to check with your supervisor. Propane is a fuel. It will ignite and burn under the right conditions. 3 ingredients are needed to start and sustain combustion: propane, oxygen, and an ignition source. In order to minimize possible ignition sources that could lead to combustion, customers should be restricted from the immediate area around the liquid propane transfer areas. Detecting propane. A strong, unpleasant-smelling chemical is added to propane so you can detect it. The chemical added to propane makes it smell like rotten eggs, a skunk spray, or a dead animal. You should respond immediately to even a faint odor of propane. If for any reason you cannot recognize the smell of propane, notify your supervisor immediately. Both you and your customer's safety could depend on your ability to smell propane in the event of a leak. What you should know before dispensing propane. Sources of ignition. You should be aware of any potential ignition sources any time you are handling or transferring propane. Some examples include a person smoking, open flames, internal combustion engines, and static electricity. Make sure you eliminate any potential ignition sources before handling or filling propane cylinders and tanks. In the right conditions, a source of ignition, such as a static discharge or spark, may cause the ignition of some fuels, including gasoline and propane. For more information on controlling static electricity, visit propanecouncil.org. Uncontrolled propane leaks and fires. An uncontrolled release of propane can be extremely dangerous and potentially cause a fire or explosion. If your facility is equipped with an emergency shutdown device, make sure you are aware of its location. In the event of a propane emergency, you should always place personal and customer safety first. Follow these steps. Shut down the dispenser if safe to do so. Evacuate the area immediately. Everyone in the building or area affected by the emergency should evacuate immediately to a safe distance. Do not re-enter the area. Call for help. After you are at a safe distance from the affected area, call 911 or your local fire department. When help arrives. Emergency responders, including firefighters, hazmat crews, and emergency medical technicians, are the only personnel qualified to provide leadership in emergencies involving propane. Your company may have specific instructions for you to follow in both routine and emergency situations, so you should always consult your supervisor for more information. Dispensing station equipment. Dispenser components. In order to dispense propane safely, you should be familiar with the equipment you are working with and how to use it. The following section talks about equipment that is common to most dispensing stations. This section does not discuss autogas dispensers. Please view Module 9 for more information on autogas dispensing station equipment. There are 2 common types of propane dispensing station setups: vertical tank dispensers and horizontal tank dispensers. Dispensing equipment often varies from facility to facility. Your system may or may not have all of the following components: valves that control the flow of propane through the piping system, a metering system that measures how much propane is being filled into containers, an emergency breakaway device that is designed to provide protection in case of a vehicle pull-away by stopping the flow of propane if a person drives away with the hose attached. Shutdown systems. Most dispensers will have a shutdown system to stop the flow of propane in an emergency. Know where the system is located and know how to operate it. Preparing the dispenser. The first step in preparing the dispenser for operation is to unlock the cabinet and verify that the hose end valves are closed. Slowly open the liquid outlet valve and the first downstream manual valve. If you hear a snapping noise, this means the valves have been opened too quickly and the excess flow valve may have closed. If the excess flow valve closes or slugs, proceed as follows. Close the downstream manual valve. Wait patiently for the excess flow valve to open. You may hear it click. Open the valve slowly to avoid a sudden increase in flow. Inspect all valves, piping, transfer hose, and fittings for proper operation. Inspect the threads of all connection adapters, especially brass, for excess wear. Make sure the gaskets and O-rings, if equipped, are in place and in good working condition. Inspect for leaks. If you suspect a leak, shut down the system, immediately leave the area, and contact your supervisor. Dispenser shutdown. When the dispenser is not in use or when a qualified operator is not present, the dispenser should be shut down and secured. To shut down the dispenser, close all valves at the storage tank. If so equipped, place the dust cap or plug in the hose end valve or filling adapter. Store the filler hose in the proper location. Close and lock the cabinet. Becoming familiar with the dispensing equipment and how it works will help you to fill containers safely and protect your customers, your workplace, and yourself. DOT cylinders. An important part of the dispenser operator's job is to be able to recognize various types of propane cylinders and understand their markings. This will help to ensure that the cylinder is suitable for filling. Most propane cylinders in service today are manufactured according to Department of Transportation specifications and are commonly referred to as DOT cylinders. Small portable cylinders are filled at various locations and are used with hand torches, plumber's pots, gas lanterns, camp stoves, barbecue grills, and on many recreational vehicles. Larger cylinders are typically filled at a facility and delivered to industrial, commercial, or residential customers. Common elements of DOT cylinders. Cylinder bodies are most commonly made from either aluminum or steel. Every aluminum or steel cylinder has a foot ring. It is used to protect the bottom of the cylinder body from damage and also functions as a support stand or base. Openings for valves and fittings are located in the service end of the cylinder. The number of openings depends on how the cylinder will be used. Portable and exchange cylinders usually have one combination service valve and pressure relief valve screwed into the top of the cylinder. Vertical cylinders with 4 to 40-pound propane capacity must be fitted with an overfilling prevention device, or OPD. OPD cylinder valves are distinctively marked and equipped with a unique hand wheel in the shape of a modified triangle. OPDs should not be treated as the primary means of preventing overfilling. It is still the dispenser operator's responsibility to close the hose end valve when the proper filling level has been reached. Some existing cylinders are not required to be fitted with an OPD. These include cylinders used in industrial truck service or mower applications. Cylinders manufactured prior to 1998 and designed for use in the horizontal position. cylinders used for industrial welding and cutting gases. To protect the cylinder's valves, a wide metal band called a collar is welded to the cylinder body. Collars often incorporate handles for lifting and moving. Cylinder valves should never be used to lift or move a cylinder. Cylinder markings. Markings are required by DOT and are the ID card for the cylinder. Markings must be legible and clearly and permanently marked on the collar or cylinder body. The markings include the cylinder specification design code, service pressure, cylinder tare weight, water capacity in pounds, the manufacturer name, and test or requalification date. The cylinder must be identified as a propane cylinder before filling it. This chart shows all of the acceptable design codes for propane cylinders. Refer to the textbook for additional information on the entire cylinder marking requirements, as well as a table listing all the specification design codes for propane cylinders. Cylinder capacity is marked by the pounds of water it can hold. The tare weight is the weight of the cylinder when empty and includes the weight of the cylinder valves, but not the filling hose and nozzle. Cylinders with the same water capacity can have different tare weights, so each cylinder should be treated individually. All refillable cylinders must be requalified at regular intervals. Requalification is normally not handled at dispenser locations and should only be performed by trained individuals. When reading the original date or requalification markings, a date without a letter indicates the next requalification must be within 12 years. The letter S following the date indicates the cylinder must be requalified within 7 years of the marked date. The letter E following the date indicates that requalification is required again within 5 years of the marked date. The most recent requalification date must be marked on the cylinder. Cylinders that are out of qualification must not be refilled. Rather, they should be marked and set aside in a designated safe area. Knowing about cylinder construction, components, and markings will assist you in safely refilling your customers' cylinders. Pre-fill visual inspection. DOT regulations require a visual check before a small cylinder can be filled or refilled to verify that it is fit for continued service. Prior to inspecting a cylinder, remove any plastic or paper sleeve so you are easily able to spot any problems. After inspection, if any of the following are found, the cylinder must not be refilled and should be marked and set aside in a designated safe area. Problems that prevent refilling a cylinder include cracks or leaks, bulging, serious denting or gouging, defective valves, defective interface seal of an OPD valve, defective or leaking pressure relief device, damage to the cylinder valve, valve protection, and cylinder foot rings, evidence of physical abuse, fire or heat damage, or excessive rusting or corrosion, out-of-date requalification. Steel cylinders subjected to fire must be requalified, reconditioned, or repaired by the original manufacturer or a DOT-authorized repair facility before being placed back in service. Aluminum cylinders subjected to fire must be permanently removed from service. Cylinders set aside because of defects identified must not be refilled unless the cylinder has been properly repaired or replaced by a trained and qualified service technician. Contact your propane supplier for assistance. If you encounter a cylinder with X's over the DOT specification number or marked condemned on the shoulder, collar, or head, do not refill. Instead, mark and set aside in a designated safe area. Valves and accessories should also be inspected prior to filling. They should be checked regularly for signs of aging and wear. You should never look directly into a relief valve opening to inspect it. A mirror can be used to safely inspect the relief valve. Valve accessories may become broken or lost, allowing dirt or moisture to enter the valve. Inspect and replace any faulty or missing dust caps. Valves may also be damaged through improper cylinder maintenance. For example, service personnel may fail to use the proper brushes around cylinder openings when painting them. As a result, gauge faces, weep holes in filler valves, and discharge openings of relief valves may be blocked with paint. If you find a blue-green stain on the brass portion of the cylinder valve, the cylinder may have come in contact with anhydrous ammonia, which is often used to manufacture illegal drugs. If you encounter this situation, you should set the cylinder aside in a designated safe area and contact the local fire or police department. Purging. In order for equipment to operate properly and to keep customers safe, both new cylinders that have not been vacuum purged by the manufacturer and those that have been opened to the atmosphere must be purged of air or moisture before filling. If air or moisture enters a propane cylinder, it can slow down the filling operation, create unusually high service pressures, cause regulator freeze-up, or cause fading of the odorant in the cylinder. Contact your propane supplier to make sure you have the appropriate equipment needed and that all purging is performed in a safe location. Purging cylinders with propane vapor. When purging cylinders with propane vapor, it's important to note that the steps involved may vary depending on your company's policy and the type of equipment installed at the facility. Always consult your supervisor for more information. Using propane vapor to force the air out of a cylinder is an effective purging method that is often used at refilling stations. Cylinders should always be purged in an approved area where there are no ignition sources. Follow these steps to purge cylinders. Step 1. Connect the vapor hose to the cylinder. Ensure that you have the correct fittings installed when connecting the vapor hose to the cylinder service valve. If the service valve on the cylinder does not have a female POL opening, attach a cylinder service valve adapter to the POL adapter that is installed in the vapor line hose end valve. Securely tighten the vapor hose assembly to the cylinder service valve. Step 2. Pressurize the cylinder with propane vapor to 15 psig. With the service valve closed on the cylinder being purged, open the service valve on the purging cylinder. Gradually position the ball valve on the vapor hose to allow propane vapor to vent into the cylinder being purged. If no leakage is detected, open the service valve on the cylinder being purged. Observe the gauge on the purging manifold until the pressure reaches 15 psig. Step 3. Bleed off the pressure in the cylinder. Gradually position the ball valve on the vapor hose to vent a small volume of propane vapor and air until the pressure gauge reaches 0 psig. During this bleed-off process, be very cautious as a small amount of propane vapor and air will be released. To prevent ignition, venting should be done at least 25 feet from any open flame, smoking area, portable electric tools, and